Well, hello again. Thanks so much for joining today. We will be in the middle of our Reboot 2022 series, and today we are talking about networking. The thing that a lot of people are hesitant about, maybe you're not sure how to get started. So hopefully today's information will give you some tips and tricks to feel like you can get started better with networking, or maybe you can refresh your strategy. If you've got a second, go ahead and throw in that chat there. Just tell me where you're broadcasting from today and what your affiliation is with the university, so we know who we have on the call. And while you guys are doing that, I will go ahead and kick things off and get started. So there are a few things in regards to networking that we'll be touching base on today. Right now we're sort of in we're in a funny transitional time right now with the COVID pandemic and how things are going and people's comfort level with how they're going back out into the world. So we'll talk a little bit about, things that have changed recently, what's going on out there, and what remains the same in terms of how you connect with people and networking. Talk a little bit about networking strategy as well, and virtual networking etiquette, because there's still a lot of that going on. And how can you find people to connect with as well? So we'll be covering a lot of those topics. A couple things before we do dive into the content. First of all, if you have questions, I would love for you to have questions. Please submit them. I do prefer that you use the Q&A function down there at the bottom of your screen as opposed to the chat feature. It just helps me to manage things a little bit better. Additionally, with questions, I will have a few opportunities throughout the presentation today that I'll stop and pause for questions. So if you've got them, throw them in the Q&A and we will get to them. I don't need to necessarily save all of the questions for the end of our presentation today. If you have any follow-up questions or want to get in touch with me, my information is down there at the bottom. You can either send me an email really quickly, or you can just give me a call on my office line, and I am happy to chat with you about whatever's going on. So before we dive into our information today, I wanted to give you a few tidbits about what you have access to here at the University of Richmond Career Services. So if you have been to my webinars in the past, this is not new information for you. However, if you are new to me, these are some really great things you have access to. So the majority of what I do is I do one-on-one career advising with folks, and we offer career services free for life to all of our alumni, which is fantastic. That's not a resource that's often seen at universities. So we can meet as often or as little as you like, and we put no cap on the amount of times that we can meet. We will never charge you for these things as well. So there's a whole lot of things, if you would like to meet one-on-one, that we can chat about. We can talk about where you are in your journey, and how can you get there. We can talk about creating an action plan for you. We can look at resumes and cover letters together, how to build your network, and how applying for jobs nowadays. And we can even have a mock interview and go over some of those types of questions so you can feel more comfortable when you get there. If you are wanting to schedule an appointment with me, I would love to meet. I do ask that you please use Spider Connect, which is the link in that bottom left corner there. And if you're wondering what in the heck is Spider Connect, Becca, and I don't even know how to access that, shoot me an email and I will give you instructions on how you can get started on that. It does a lot of things, but Spider Connect, the main thing that it can do for you is it can help you schedule an appointment with me. And there are a lot of other resources there that you have. The one that I will certainly point out for you right now, top right corner, that link there, the UR Alumni Relations YouTube page is a wonderful resource. It has all of my past webinars as well as past virtual events that the Alumni Relations team has done over the past couple years. So definitely check that out and see what else is out there if there are other subjects that you're curious about. All of our virtual events live there in perpetuity. And I will also be sending these slides out after our presentation today. So you will have access to all of this information, as well as the links if you want them The last thing to remember really quickly is that I am recording this, so we will be able to post this online for you to access as well. So diving into our information today, networking. It is, I've been doing this for years now, this work, career services, and networking. Very rarely do I meet somebody who genuinely really loves networking and is excited about it, right? It usually gives a lot of people pause. Networking is a term that also has a lot of anxiety and other types of feelings behind it, that people hear the word, or attending a networking event, and it usually elicits some cringes. So it's not something that a lot of people are really excited about, but I'm hoping that our discussion today can help you just break it down a little bit and help it feel a little bit less scary. So right now, like I said earlier, we're in a sort of an interesting transitional period in terms of how people are connecting and the after effects of the COVID pandemic that have had on how people do that kind of stuff. Especially for the last couple of years, we've never really experienced this much distance, right? And for a lot of people out there, not everybody, but for a lot of people, it was forced distance. We made choices to be farther apart from people and meet with them in different ways than we had really wanted to. But it was, for a lot of people, it was for the better of their health. But now, so now we're in a transitional period, and some people are comfortable meeting in person, and some people aren't. And so I think when you are, reaching out and connecting with people and wanting to chat with them, I think being very aware and cognizant that not everybody might be in the same headspace as you. And so just being really, courteous about asking, how do they prefer to meet? Are they comfortable meeting in person? Would they rather meet outside and distanced, or would they like to have perhaps a phone call or a virtual meeting instead? So I think just being really aware of people's differences in their comfort levels, and just being upfront and asking how they prefer to do that. Something else that, the last couple of years, for many people out there in the workforce, is certainly not everybody, but for many people, depending on your job, work and home have been very blurred, right? And so home is work and work is home. And for a lot of people, even if they might be doing a hybrid schedule, maybe they're splitting their time between working from home and being in the office, there's still a lot of blurred boundaries that come with that. And there can be a lot of, it can be very chaotic for some people, and, feeling a little bit hectic. Maybe you're feeling pulled in multiple different directions. And so I think, what's now, again, just as I was talking about previously, just being really, I think, courteous and aware of how people want to meet, just asking them, how do you want to meet? And realizing that they might feel like they need to, maybe push that meeting back a little bit so they can have the space to focus on maybe other personal or work things while they're sort of managing a lot of stuff. And the other thing too that's changed is certainly how we are connecting even today. We're, 3 years ago, these kinds of virtual events were very few and far between, but now they're very common. And so people are using different tools to connect. And so you might need to just rethink a little bit how you connect with folks. I know most of us are very used to virtual meeting spaces and environments. But maybe if you wanted to, say, for example, really have a face-to-face meeting with somebody, maybe, especially as the weather's warming up, perhaps you offer up, maybe a restaurant or a coffee shop or something with some outside space, or maybe meeting in a park, or going for a walking conversation through a park, that could, offer up some new and interesting ways to connect with people that could really liven up the conversation. So with all of that stuff that's changed in the last couple of years, with how people are connecting, there's still a lot for networking and how you're meeting with people that still remains the same, right? These are things that are just tried and true, and they're not really going to be changing no matter what else changes in our society. So first of all, the goal of networking has always been, and probably will always be, to just build mutually beneficial relationships between you and the person that you're meeting. Even if you have known this person for a while, or if it's a new connection, I think remembering that no matter where you are, if you're a current student or if you're a young professional, or maybe if you're like a mid-career professional, but you're looking to change careers, you don't necessarily have to offer up something immediately to make that a mutually beneficial relationship. This is where it's helpful to stay in touch with and engage with that person that you're connecting with. So you do have the opportunity later on to offer up something in reciprocity for what they're doing for you right now. Perhaps maybe they might be connecting you with other people that they know or giving you helpful information. So just keeping in mind, the attitude of paying it forward, even if it's later on in your relationship with that person. We talk about this a lot, but it still is very, very important. Just really not having a me first attitude with your networking approach. And I know this might be a little bit funny to say or seem obvious to say. But even if you are job searching, you have an express purpose for connecting with that person, right? You maybe need some information for them, or you would like to see if they can connect you with somebody at their company or somebody that mutually that you think could be really helpful to you. Because ultimately, for a lot of people, the reason for networking is to land a new job, right? Particularly for a lot of folks now, they're on the job search. And so not going into that conversation or sending that email or the LinkedIn connection with the blatant or outright attitude of hey, look, I'm connecting with you because I want a new job, right? So what we really encourage you to do here is aim for conversations that are really around informational interview approach. And so really it's just information gathering, right? I always say come with your curiosity. And so make sure that you are genuinely interested and curious about that person, what they do, what their career journey has been like, what the organization is like. Because for most people at the end of the day, they really like to talk about that stuff, and they love people who are interested in what they do. And that can help you have really develop a good rapport and relationship with that person, which then makes asking for favors later on a lot easier because you've already got a good relationship established with them. And the other thing too here that I think is really important that some people might overlook in the beginning, or if you're looking to refresh your networking strategy, is really thinking about what are your goals for networking, right? What is your purpose here? Because a lot of people that I talk to, one of the first things they might say is, okay, so I've got my resume done, I'm feeling good about that. Now I know I need to network, right? And so their first thought with this is, okay, I'm just going to go on LinkedIn, I'm going to connect with these people. One of the thoughts that usually goes by the wayside is, why am I asking these people to connect with me? And everybody could serve a different purpose in your life. They don't have to always serve the same purpose, right? And so some people can help you identify companies of interest. So especially if you have, say, a targeted company list that you say, okay, I know that these are organizations that I'm really interested in and excited about, and I want more information on. People that you connect with can help you get that kind of information. They can help you make inroads or get connected to other people at those organizations. They can help give you information to prep for interviews. I remember one of my job searches years ago, I had known a little bit about the institution that I was interviewing at, but I had a final round interview and I was really excited about it, right? And so I thought, okay, well, let me get on the horn with the people that I know and see if anybody knows anybody here. Turns out there were a couple people that they knew, and they were in pretty good positions at the institution. And my mutual friends connected me with them. I had a really great, it was like a 20 or 30-minute conversation with these people that worked at the institution. And they gave me incredibly helpful information that I couldn't find on the website. And so when I went in for my interview, being able to talk about the fact that, oh, I've spoken with this particular person, and they gave me some really great insight, and let me tell you what I know, and how I can help you achieve the goals that you want to with this stuff, right? So they can help you, give you really good inside information. And they can also help you get referred to other people in their circle that you might not have known about. And so I think the whole, the takeaway here is to really think about, with the right approach and the right attitude when you connect with people, this is where the help with your job search will come. I think a lot of people get really frustrated thinking, okay, well, so I need to network to get a job. That's one of the things you can do, right? But where people get really frustrated with the networking piece is that you sometimes don't see results immediately. But you just have to trust the process and have faith in it that it is working when you have the right approach. So one thing I want to talk about here for the next couple slides, and I think after this I have a pause for questions. So if you've got any on your mind, go ahead and submit those in the Q&A. Thinking about your networking strategy. And again, I think, most people who go into this kind of thing, or they have other goals and plans in mind, and they just sort of dive in head first, that's where things might be going really well at first, but then you might get frustrated or hit roadblocks. And so I think it's really important to take a step back and really think about, okay, well, what's my plan here? What's my strategy? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And who am I connecting with? So some things that you can do to start to develop a strategy or think more purposefully about these things is to, first of all, when you're thinking about what are you doing each week, allocate time for it, right? Decide, again, what we were talking about earlier, who do you want to meet, need to meet, and why, right? Based on your goals. So if your goal is, networking for, a job because you're in a job search, maybe, you would want to connect with people to learn more about companies on your target list, to get inside information for interviews, and to perhaps even network with people in that company to get your application to the person that really needs to read it, right? So we're talking about internal referral programs that a lot of organizations have, because applying online, applying through their job portal is good. You do have to do those things. That's the formal process, but also connecting with people within organizations so they can hopefully get your resume to a hiring manager to help get that second look at it. That's really going to help maybe get you that interview, right? So really thinking purposefully about how and when you work on this each week. Aim for, I always say, quality over quantity when it comes to networking. Again, if you're just going on LinkedIn and, shooting off, 10, 15 connection requests every day just because you're trying to up your numbers here, that's where you might not find as much, you might not find the results that you want to with that strategy. So just be really purposeful, again, about who you're connecting with and why. I think a lot of people also that I hear from say, okay, well, this sounds all well and good, Becca, like I understand this. But a lot of people might find a stutter start with this because they're just not sure where to begin, right? Who do you reach out to? I always say start with nurturing your existing relationships that you have. Who are those in your circle right now that might be helpful? Maybe they're family. Maybe it is professors, if you're a student. If you're an alumni, maybe it's former coworkers, people that you just know at other organizations, or former classmates, right? Your friends from, your peers from University of Richmond. So start with those existing relationships that you have, people that you trust, that are not going to go maybe blabbing what your goal is here, especially if you don't want a lot of people to know. So start there and see where that goes, because those existing relationships can often be, it sort of takes the sting out sometimes when you're reaching out to people and asking for favors and information, as opposed to reaching out to somebody that you've never met before. Say on LinkedIn, you're reaching out to them and you've never met them, but you're asking them for a fake conversation. So start with people that you know. I think that it's a much easier way to practice those kinds of things. And again, just be patient with response times with people, because we all have so much going on these days. And it's, again, we're in a funny transitional period. Life is feeling very chaotic and hectic for a lot of people. So just be patient. And, if you need to do a follow-up in, a week or two with them, go ahead and do that. But, don't just be very courteous and understanding of that they might be really busy. So I put in here, like, a sample list of things that you can do in 30 minutes on LinkedIn, because one of the other big things that I hear from people is, I don't have time. I don't know how to manage it that they want to do, right? So in 30 minutes, if you really buckle down and get focused and, turn off your other distractions that you might have, here are some things that you can really do. You can look at your home feed, your news feed, right? Look at that. You can engage with your audience there, like, comment, or share some things that they have to make sure that you're staying top of mind for them. You can congratulate your connections, right? Look through your notifications and see who's gotten a new job. Does anybody have a work anniversary? And you can send them a really quick message just to say, hey, congratulations. I see you just celebrated 5 years at your company. I hope things are going well. Would love to connect soon and catch up, right? You can, again, send birthday messages. I think they do notify you of birthdays if people have that on there. You can find new companies of interest to follow and just give that really quick, a blue button, that follow button on there. And that's a really great way to keep up with what they're doing. And you can also just look for maybe a handful of people that you may know, but you just haven't connected with, right? So those are simple strategies that you can do in a very short amount of time on LinkedIn to engage with the audience there and keep up with your networking strategy. One of the other things here that I really love the concept of is your personal advisory board with your networking strategy. And so this is really the idea of thinking about who is on your support team here, who can help you, right? Because we are human beings, and we are certainly not meant to do things alone, and we should not be doing these kinds of things in a vacuum. We have people around us who love us and want to support us, and when it's part of your networking strategy, really thinking about who are these people that I can lean on and rely on. When I send out the slides after the presentation, probably later this week, I'll send this out as a separate document, so you can have this if you really want to print it out and work with it a little bit, or work with it on your computer. So of course you don't have to fill in all the squares there, but just thinking about who are those in your corner, in your support network, who have a seat at your table, right? Who are on your personal advisory board. And thinking about ways in which they can help you, thinking about having a variety of people on this advisory board, people in maybe different industries, or maybe there are people who are a little bit more experienced in industries, or maybe those that are sort of newer professionals who can help advise you on things like job search strategy and how to get a foot in the door at companies, right? Who have been through that a little bit more recently. So just some things to think about there. All right, so I'm going to take a sip of water, and I will have a pause for questions. If you have any, throw them in the Q&A, please. Okay, well, I don't see any coming up now, but if you're thinking of them, just go ahead and throw them up there. We will move on with some other information here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about virtual networking etiquette here. And again, I think a lot of us are sort of transitional. Some are comfortable meeting in person. Some want to meet in person, distance with masks. Some just want to meet completely virtually. I know, at least, for me and a lot of the circle of people that I know, there are a fair amount of companies and organizations out there that are still exclusively having their employees work from home. So that might be the only way that some people will meet, right? And so particularly with the virtual, the idea of connecting with people on LinkedIn and virtually, geographically, that really opens up a lot of space for you. You could connect with people that are on the other side of the country, or in across the pond. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities there. So this is also helpful for that. Again, I think the whole the whole attitude towards you reaching out to people, especially those that you don't know that you would like to connect with, just always asking what their preferences are in terms of certain things, like how you meet, when you meet. That is just really important. And so I think just offering up the availability to, if you would rather have a phone call or a video call, just to see what their capabilities and availabilities are with that. Or I see this a lot less often, but there are occasionally people who, are just like, hey, I would love to be able to help you out and give you some information. Can you send me an email with your questions? That's okay too. Again, I think that happens fewer and farther in between, but that might be something that you run into. Another thing here to think about too is like, how do you first reach out, right? If you have their phone number, do you just give them a call? LinkedIn, do you send them an email? And think about that way. So it really just depends, I think. If most people are connecting on LinkedIn, and if you find them on LinkedIn, say if you do like an alumni search and find them that way, definitely use LinkedIn first to connect with them and just send them a really quick message. Don't forget to, with LinkedIn, you have a 300-word limit, I think. You can get really creative and you can give them the information that they need to know in 300 words to have them want to write you back. Because that's the most of the way that I connect with folks that I know or want to know is through LinkedIn. And so the way that I view LinkedIn is it's a means to an end, right? It's a great means to identify and connect with people that you wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to. But the end goal here is to move that from a relationship on LinkedIn to a different kind of relationship, say over a video call or a phone call or even face-to-face, right? So what I usually do with LinkedIn, because they give you such a short character limit to use with the initial message, is I just, I introduce myself briefly, tell them what I'm hoping to do. So say, for example, for my job, I like to connect with a lot of people. Maybe they can help me with an event that I have coming up. And so I'll send them that message. And then at the end, I'll say, if this sounds interesting, can you please give me your best email where I can send you more details, right? Something to that effect. And so that can allow you to move that conversation to an email where you have more space and you can go back and forth. If you have their email address, I think that's a great way to reach out first. A lot of people, again, because we're being stretched in so many different ways, and people, with the work from home thing, people might be working at really odd hours. And so they might not be able to answer their phone at certain times of the day. And additionally, if you have an office number and they're working from home, they might have trouble having their line forwarded to their home phone or their cell phone. So email is a great first way to reach out as well. If you have that, say if this was, if you got a referral from a family friend or another mutual friend that says, hey, you can email Becca at this email address, she'd probably be happy to talk to you. Reach out that way. That way, again, you have much more space to work with email. And you can give them a lot more context and details in terms of what you're looking for and why you would like to connect. And then that way they can write you back when it's more convenient for them. Again, just be patient, I think, with this. Everybody is, it's complicated right now. People, again, I've had some stuff going on lately in my personal life. And so I was working last night at midnight, right? And so people that might be getting emails from me at midnight might feel a little bit funny, but that's just when I had the space to work. And so people are a lot more often, they're getting back to emails when they have the time to. And follow up is another question to get a lot of, how do I follow up? When do I follow up? Usually what I say is, if it's LinkedIn or email, do this once and then move on. particularly with both of those mediums. Again, with LinkedIn, everybody manages a little differently. Some people are on there every day, multiple times a day. Some people are on there a couple times a week, maybe once a month. And so it's likely that they'll see your message, but they might not see it when you want them to see it. They'll get it, okay, but they might not get back to you for a few weeks or something. So I say follow up, from your initial message, follow up at about like a week and a half or so, a week and a half, a gentle follow up, acknowledging that they might be really busy. But if they feel like they have the time and capacity, that you would love to chat with them about these specific things that you're wanting to know, right? And so I think, again, just extending that courtesy to them is really important, and acknowledging that life is kind of crazy right now. So a little bit about finding people to connect with, because once you figure out who you want to connect with, why you're interested in connecting with them, and you feel like you are good with your strategy, the next question is, how do you find people, right? I know we talk a lot about LinkedIn. I'm not at all by any means saying that you have to be on there. I'm saying it's a great tool. And so if it's something that you're open to and you would like to utilize it, it really, really is wonderful. And so with LinkedIn, there's a few things that you can do. I mentioned very briefly earlier the Find Alumni search. That is a wonderful feature. I covered that in my LinkedIn webinar a couple weeks ago. But essentially what you do is in the search bar in the top left of LinkedIn, you look up the University of Richmond, you pull up the school page, and then of course they have changed things rapidly as they always do. So it's not like the graphic over here, but there is a bar sort of towards the top of the school page that has that, and that'll give you all the searches that you can do with that. And so essentially what that does is it pulls alumni, or it pulls LinkedIn profiles with University of Richmond in the education, and it gives you a variety of information to search by, such as geographic location, the specific company name that they currently work for. You can search by their industry type, second degree connections. So it's a really helpful tool to sort of narrow down people that could be really interesting to you. One of the other things here to connect with people is through You Are Online. Again, the link is there to get there. That is our university managed alumni database. Students can get access, which is really great news. That's our alumni directory. So, if you use that in conjunction with LinkedIn, you could find some cross-reference people. So maybe you find people in both places. But you also could find people when you are online that might not be active on LinkedIn. So it could be a helpful place. I think every tool is helpful. You just have to figure out how helpful it is to you and where it falls in your priority list. Professional development organizations are a great place to also think about finding people to connect with. So if out there on the webinar, if you are a student, first of all, know that with professional development organizations, you get a hefty student discount with the majority of them. I know when I was in graduate school, I joined my professional development organization for $20 a year, which was a steal, because with those orgs, you get a lot of information. I mean, most of them have job boards, so they're sending out jobs that are particular to that industry that are open. They usually have a host of really great virtual and in-person events. And they also usually have a member directory. So you can have access to see who is and the contact information for the people in that organization, which are the professionals in your chosen profession. So I definitely recommend using that as a resource. And there are some other ones there too. Chamber of Commerce websites are great ways to identify people who have like a lot of really great virtual events that are going on that allow you to connect with people as well. So the next couple slides that I have here, is we are wrapping up our time very quickly today. So talking about, how to send a note to people, I have some examples here as well. And again, you can access this information in the slides if you want it for later, because also a lot of times what happens with networking is that people they're just not sure how to get started with that initial message, right? What do I say? How do I introduce myself? Oh my gosh, they only want 300 characters. So there's some examples here to help you get started with that. One thing, definitely, these are some of the topics that we've covered earlier, but certainly making it personal, introducing yourself, letting them know what you are hoping for from them, right? Like what you're looking for, why you want to connect. And certainly if you were referred to them by anybody, make sure that you mention that, because they might recognize that name and say, oh yeah, Becca is great, I remember her. And so they're probably gonna trust any referral that person gives them, right? If you're an alumni out there and you're thinking, okay, I'm not sure how to get started on this, here's a sample of a note that you could send somebody, just sort of introducing yourself and what you're looking for. One part of my networking strategy I think everybody networks at different times and different paces. When I was actively job searching a few years ago, I was very heavy in the networking realm. And so what I did to make my life easier, because I'm all about working smarter, not harder for yourself in this situation, I just had sort of a general drafted connection message that I would send people. Always, before you send it off, always edit that to make it personalized to that person you're sending it to. But that gives you the framework to start with. So every time you go to connect or send an email, you don't have to start over from scratch and have writer's block. Because that just makes your life a lot easier, and you can just plug and play and send stuff off when you need to. So if you're a student out there and you're thinking, okay, because it's a little bit of a different angle when you're connecting with people in terms of being a student. So you just want to let them know, like, what are you studying there? What year are you? That can give them some context into who you are and what you're interested in maybe exploring or learning more about from them. And so you'll see over there on the right, that was a message from Aaron, who met an alumni at an event, and wanted to follow up from that. So that's a really good way to approach it. My rule of thumb always with, say, a school event or an in-person event, my rule of thumb is follow up with them within 24 to 48 hours after meeting them. It helps you not forget to do what you want to do, and it helps them to not forget you. Right. And that makes sure that you're doing what you need to do in a timely manner, and you can get that conversation moving if you need to. One of the last things I have here is engaging with your network, because again, what we were talking about earlier in terms of networking with people is it's really developing a meaningful relationship with them, right? And relationships are not built on just one meeting. They're built on engaging and re-engaging over time with people. And that's where a lot of people, I think, might find some success in the beginning of their networking strategy and thinking, oh, things are going really well. But a few months down the road, they feel like it sort of fizzles out maybe. And one of the things that's going on here is that, it's really just a matter of keeping up with those people, right? And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. And it doesn't require you to have, a whole another hour-long conversation with them to re-engage them. It can just be something quick. So here are some things to think about if you want to engage with your network. Some of these are particular to LinkedIn. So thinking about who you can connect with, again, a whole host of people, right? And again, like I said, I recommend 24 to 48 hours to make sure that things are just moving along and they're staying fresh. Following companies that are of interest to you. Again, what we had talked about a little bit earlier, just making sure that you're staying up with people in terms of work anniversaries, new job alerts, and congratulating them, and even just giving a really quick comment on perhaps something that they posted can really help them remember that, oh yeah, that's Becca, and I enjoy her. Okay. So we have some time for questions, and this is towards the end of my presentation. So again, please let me know if you have any in the Q&A. I will go ahead and share some information with you again. I would love to connect if you have any follow-up questions, or if you would like to have a one-on-one appointment. I would love to do that. Just shoot me an email really quickly. Reminder that our next session is next Wednesday at 12:15 again, and we will be talking about all things resumes and cover letters. Some things have, morphed a little bit in the last couple of years with those and the expectations. So we'll be talking about those and how to apply with all of the technology that's out there these days. So I do hope that you join me. For now, I will say goodbye to you, and I hope that you got some really good information today. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks again for joining.